Everybody look busy, by the way. Peter Stark Author is the place you want to go. If you head over there, you'll find out what his bio is, what his background is, the books he's written, the articles he's generated, the events he'll be attending, the media where you can find him at. Gallop Towards the Sun, Tecumseh and William Henry Harrison's struggle for the destiny of a nation, which was released over in 2023. Matter of fact, Lindsay, when Peter and I last talked, this action adventurer, who you can find at Peter Stark Author, actually is in the same place that Megan was. He's turned in that book copy. He's done. He doesn't know what to do with himself. Well, I had big plans. Lindsay, why don't you introduce him, though?
Well, here's the thing, Peter. You've done really smart, important, bold, brave things in the world, and that's cool and all, but we have dumbed you down this morning to a sweet pastry. No, not dumbed down. Cozied you down.
No,
Cozied you down.
I like it.
And I went into the last break saying maybe he's both sweet and savory, and I say that because you're you're unlike most traditional sweet desserts or savory meals, because you incorporate both, because you've got dough, you've got filling, you've got toppings, and you, my friend, create a very complex flavor profile. So welcome to the show.
Well, I'll run with that. Do I come like? Am I warm when I, is it a warm?
Oh yeah.
taste?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Like out of the oven, right?
100%.
I got it. I know what Peter is, because Dre said he goes great with a cup of coffee. I know what Peter is. He is a wood-stoved, created apple pie with cheddar cheese. That's what he is.
Oh.
Okay, that works.
Yeah,
I was going to say I was going to say apple fennel, because we got a little sweet and savory, but apple, that works too.
Oh, I love all those. Yeah, I'll take every one of them. Yeah, apple pie with cheddar.
Yeah.
I love that. Sometimes for breakfast I just have slices of apple with slices of cheddar on top, and that's all the breakfast you need for the next adventure. It's got everything you need.
And you embody just in general, Peter, and then we will get serious at some point. To me, you embody. I've been talking a lot with all the girls here, all the women who are so basic bees. Like, I can't wait till fall so I can just wear my leggings and my boots and have a pumpkin spice latte, guys. You embody that. You embody cozy fall cabin in the woods. That is the presence that is Peter Stark. And I mean that as the highest compliment. You're somebody I want to equal parts share a cup of coffee with, learn with, and if I'm about to get eaten by a bear, damn it, I hope you're there next to me also.
Okay, well, I want to lead you a place today where you might get eaten by a bear. But
awesome.
I will be there with the apple pie and the cheddar cheese, and that will distract the bear from you.
Perfect.
The bear will want to eat the apple pie and the cheddar cheese and not go after you.
Okay, so
we'll go somewhere in the wilderness.
You'll be the reason the bear came, because you're the one who brought the food, and then you'll also be the reason the bear gets that you've saved.
That's the way the adventures work. You go when you go exploring, and you've got a leader. The leader is the person who gets you into the dicey situation, and then the leader is supposed to get you out of the dicey situation. And that's the formula that you hope works. And sometimes it doesn't work, and then it's a really bad formula.
It's like my Spanish, enough to get us into trouble, but also enough to get us out. Peter, is this the dumbest conversation you've been a part of? I hope so.
Well, the reason I'm all jacked up here is because I'm on your new website this morning, and one, I forgot that I was coming in a half an hour later, and so I had a half an hour, and I'm sitting here, and I said, oh yeah, well, I want to go to the DaveNemo.com website and check it out, and then it's like, wow, that's so cool. You can just click this, and it's live stream radio. And so then I hear you guys, Lindsay and Jimmy and your guests, and it's like, I feel like I'm on the sidelines of the NFL football game, warming up to go in for the big time. So it gets me all ready to jump in. So now I've got a lot of thoughts about our our topic of discussion today, which I think will fit in with what you were just talking about.
Awesome.
Really quickly, by the way, and I love this. If you want to find out more about Peter, along with Peter Stark, author, I love this. On Instagram, he's Peter Stark, Adventure Historian. On Facebook, it's just Peter W. Stark. But on the X, which was formerly known as Twitter, he's Stark Adventurer. I just love that, by the way. Sometimes when you're adventuring, Peter, let's get to the topic. When you're adventuring and all you have is the stars to guide you and your wits, and sometimes a really good compass. The question we're really kind of talking about today is, does the modern traveler need a good compass? Can we still do that, right? I mean, that's what we're kind of getting at here.
Well, yeah, it goes beyond that. It goes beyond that. You were just talking about, was it Tara who said, you don't have to move mountains, but just keep moving. And that kind of fits into where this is going. So over this last month, I spent 2 weeks every day, every night on a sailboat and sailing in Puget Sound, from the southern part of the Puget Sound through all the islands and channels and all the way up to Vancouver Island into Canada. We had to cross into Canada. You have to go through customs on an island outpost, and we have some friends up there who have a really nice place on a separate island. So that was our destination, and winding through all these inlets and and islands and channels, there are so many currents and tides and winds. You have to pay attention to all of them, or you don't go anywhere, or you get into trouble. And I was using, at the recommendation of a sailing friend, this great app called Navionics. I think drivers might be interested in checking it out, even though it mostly is on water. It might work somewhat on land, but it's so cool. You put your finger on where you want to go, like this island way up there, and then its little computer brain tells you everything you need to know about wind, current, tides, your time of arrival, your course. So it'll give you your course so you don't run into shoals and rocks and areas where you're not supposed to go. And you just follow the little line on the map, on your little screen map. It's like driving down, the interstate, looking at Google Maps, but you're actually on the ocean following this little line with your sailboat. And so I'm thinking, wow, this is like so cool and so easy. I started thinking like, well, how did they used to do it? The navigators, before there were apps and Google Maps. And, I'm way old enough to have grown up in that pre-Google Map era. So I do know something about it, but I really wondered what people today would do without Google Maps or without navigation apps. And I've noticed it's kind of distressing. I've noticed young people like my kids' generations, in the 20s and 30s, they often don't seem to know the difference between north, south, east, and west. I mean, they don't realize, like, at any given point, they could be standing somewhere and you ask them which way is north and they have no idea. Which is, I cannot live without knowing the cardinal directions at all moments. And so that made me wonder, in both this practical, physical means of direction finding on the face of this earth, what are the implications for not knowing the cardinal directions, just in terms of finding your way around the face of the earth? But then it also struck me that there's almost a metaphysical aspect of this. It's almost a spiritual implication of not knowing exactly where you're situated, both physically and metaphysically. And for me, the cardinal, knowing where you are and knowing the cardinal directions, is instrumental to centering myself, both kind of physically and metaphysically and spiritually. So I'm throwing that out there for discussion.
Yeah. Wow. Jim or me? We're both like,
you go ahead. Go ahead.
No, well, that really lands for me, and I want to share a quick anecdote with you, Peter, of how what everything you just said really shifted for me this summer, as far as it pertains to being very closed off when you rely on Google Maps, being closed off to get lost and to experience. And I took my daughter this summer. We drove over to Pigeon Forge and met some friends at Gatlinburg and rented a cabin in the woods and did the Dollywood thing, water park. But Peter, on the way there, it was just my daughter and I. She's 6 years old. And I had the address of the cabin we were going to, of course, in my Google Maps. I'm just relying on it the whole time. And Peter, I've wanted desperately. I've never seen a bear in the wild. No, not like attacked by it, but I don't want to see that. But I've always wanted to, like, when I'm driving through the mountains, I've always wanted to see one walk by. I've desperately wanted that, and never have. And so what happened as I was driving there, we got up into as I start like getting high in the mountains where we're going to this cabin. Of course, I lost service on my phone, and I was so frustrated because I was like, crap, I'm never going to find the house now. So I had to drive all the way back down to the bottom of the mountain so that I could get service again. And Peter, once I did that, by the time I got down to the base of the mountain, I stopped to check my phone, my GPS, and a bear walked right in front of my car.
Oh, there you go.
Stopped in front of me, looked in the window us. I started screaming and crying. My daughter thought I'd lost it. I was like, this is the most beautiful moment of my life. I'm connected. I had a conversation. Speaking of spiritual, I'm like, that bear and I talked for 30 minutes. And I realized in that moment, I was like, wow, if I hadn't have lost service, I wouldn't have been forced down here to come have this moment. And it shifted things for me. I'm like, I've got to start relying on my own senses and nature and living and exploring. And it really shifted everything for me. So is that part of what you're getting at here, that not only
That's
just relying on
exactly-
ourselves?
Exactly. I mean, that is you hit it right on the head, and what a cool moment that was, and such a revelation for you, as it is for me every time I'm get in those situations. That if you let go of this technology that ties you to the internet or a Google map or a navigation app or whatever, and if you look up from that little screen and you orient yourself by what you see and what you feel, what you smell even, and you can have so many rich experiences that you completely miss looking at the little screen.
Yeah.
I have a story as well. One of Claire and I's first dates is we went across the river in New Orleans over to this kind of long, lengthy, I want to call it wilderness area, but a long trail. And it was getting dark at night. And I remember that Claire started to panic as we went further out because in order to kind of complete the walk, we were reaching the point where either we'd have to go all the way around or going back would take us just as long. And Claire was concerned that we weren't going to find our way back. And I just said, it's going to be fine. I said, I have, as Tara can tell you too from an experience that Dave and I have, if I go someplace once, Peter, I know it. Meaning that even if it means backtracking, I will know how to get back. I don't get turned around. And something occurred to me when you brought this topic up is my bigger concern is not so much that people are using GPS or using, guidance systems and all that, is that people don't remember places they've been to before, if that makes any sense. Like, I mean, the idea that you drive someplace once, you have your triptych, you have your GPS, you go through it, you get there, you find it, and then you drive back home, end of the day. You get an opportunity to go back to that place, back to those campgrounds, back to that world, wherever you're going, and you still need the GPS. That we've gone from using it as a tool that kind of will jumpstart us in the right direction. That it's beginning to have an effect on our memory. Guys, if I'm not making sense with that, you can let me know.
No, Jimmy, I'm totally with you, Jimmy. And yeah, and I don't mean to disparage Google Maps or navigation devices. I use them all the time, and driving, I use them all the time. I think it's just what you're saying is that how do you use them like to your advantage in a way that's not just being led, but in a way that you're learning as you're using them, and to absorb the area you're going through. I mean, one of the things I do is I'll figure out where I'm going on a Google Map driving, and then once I kind of have it in my head, I don't use it, unless I'm in some confusion. But try to keep looking around and try to absorb the place and absorb the landmarks, and that I do that for entertainment as well as navigation. But I think that's totally right. Is that it does have a effect on our geographic memory, and I think that geographic memory is something that is one of the most deep-rooted human instincts we have. And you see it if you have a dog. You can see it in the dog.
Oh yeah.
Every minute of every day, how imprinted the memory of a place is, and the terrain and whatnot. So yeah, I think we're losing that important aspect of human existence, geographic memory.
Geographic memory. I watched the movie Moana. I've seen about 3,075 times because of my daughter, and they're wayfarers and they're out on the sea, and they get to they discover new places or get back home by following the stars. And I watch that with so much intrigue and also get terrified because I'm like, wow, if I was in the middle of the ocean, I don't know how I would know and do and be able to learn anything. And I'm just so curious, Peter, because much as you've studied explorers who also have crossed oceans and continents with nothing but the stars and perhaps some math, like what did they know? What is the first time that you can understand how they came to be? Like how, if you don't know anything at all, how did one day somebody look up and understand how to figure that out? I'm not eloquently asking my question, but I know you know what I'm saying.
You did just fine. You did just fine.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. It's great you brought this up, because I was in preparation for this show. I looked up Polynesian navigation, and the Polynesians, the Pacific Islanders, were incredible navigators. And I know a little bit about it, but now I know a lot more of the details, having done a little studying up on it. And
funny.
You ask how do they know it? How do they know the first step? Well, think about maybe 10,000 generations of people, navigators who came before them, and it's an accumulated knowledge over literally thousands and thousands of years, over countless generations, and that knowledge is passed down about how to use the stars. And I can tell you about that in a second, about how it kind of mechanically works, which was a surprise to me. But those Pacific Islanders, they could go in a canoe 2,000 miles without seeing land.
Wow.
And find the island they were aiming for. How did they do that? I mean, it's incredible. These incredible feats of navigation, and it wasn't like they were written down in a book, and they certainly didn't have GPS. But what they had is they had songs, and these songs would relate the sequence of stars over the course of the journey that they should be following. And so it was almost like they were given a star code in the form of a song, which is something you, Lindsay, can relate to. I think we need to write some of those star songs and navigate us through life with a star song.
Wow.
It would be cool. I'd go for that.
I bet you could write that with me. Have you ever written a song, Peter? Have you ever been part of writing a song?
I'd love to do that if you want to go take a whack at it.
That could be really cool.
That could be a star song, and so the way it works, just imagine yourself in the middle of a dark night on an ocean, and there's no land within thousands of miles in any direction, and you're a lone catamaran canoe. I mean, these were actually very sophisticated boats that they self-contained. They had food. They were actually growing food on the boats as they went along. So, but you're out in the middle. You're just like this speck in the middle of a dark ocean. And what the navigators would do, and there were certain very highly regarded individuals who were professional navigators, or that was their role, navigators, and they would watch stars come up over the horizon as the night went on, and constellations. And that those stars, I have to think of how the planet turns to make sure this makes sense. But those stars come up in the same place every night, in the same spot of the globe, basically every night when the stars rise. And that's unlike the sun, which rises in different places depending on the season. The stars rise in the same place. So the navigators would have a sequence of stars they would watch through the night as these different stars came up, or these different constellations came up over the horizon. And then once, the constellation they were watching, whatever it was, got a little ways above the horizon, then they'd shift down to the next star constellation that was coming up that was in that spot. And so their guidance was, in a way, they could draw it out on a sand beach as a circle with all these different constellations around the circle. And that you had to memorize. That was the way that would lead you to an island 2,000 miles away, by following that sequence of stars every night.
That, by the way,
does that make sense?
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense.
And you know what, Jim? Kind of a big point here I need to point out. You can't spell Stark without star.
Oh, I gotta tell you,
just saying.
Okay. Well, I never thought of it that way. But I don't know where I go with that. That one
big places. Big places.
Okay, well, let's write that star song. I'm eager to do it.
100%. We're doing that.
There's a star song waiting for a star. By the way, we got a phone call, do we not, Madison, with a T?
We sure do. Clifford is calling from Missouri.
Hey, Cliff, welcome back, my friend.
Hey, guys, I didn't know if I could call back in again, but I had to say hello to Peter, and I wanted to touch on your navigation stuff,
Okay, hi, Cliff. Thanks for calling.
Hey, buddy, it's great to talk to another Montanan.
Oh, good. That's great. Yeah. We navigate by the stars up here all the time, whether we need to or not.
Well, yeah, we do. I mean, of course, I learned navigation early on in Cub Scouts, but one of my favorite authors taught me how to navigate in the woods and in the forest, and that was Louis L'Amour. Louis L'Amour wrote
interesting.
About watching your back trail and turning around and seeing things from a different perspective. Because when you turn around and look back the way you came, it gives you a whole new perspective on things. When I lived in Montana, that came in very, very handy. Going up in the mountains, hunting and fishing.
That Cliff, I have to say, that's probably the single most important thing when you're, for me, when you're hiking in the woods. That you put your finger right on it. That's the single most important thing. Is if there's you're on a trail and another trail comes in, or there's any question about the trail, you got to turn around exactly what you're saying. And I guess Louis L'Amour, I haven't read that. I haven't read much Louis L'Amour, but that makes total sense. This is how you keep track of where you are, by looking where you've been.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, and then when there's a break in the canopy, knowing where the sun is at, or knowing what the stars look like in that break of the canopy, because you just never know when something like that comes in handy to get you back where you started,
Well, and that's why, when I'm in the woods, I'm always, I realized a few years ago that I'm hyper aware of where the sun is in the sky. So I'm always kind of oriented north, south, east, and west, because I know it's morning and the sun's, rising. So, that way's east, now it's noon, it's to the south. And if I can't see that, if it's really cloudy and I don't know where I am, or if I'm in the woods and I can't see the sun, I lose my bearings pretty quickly. And, I think we all do, actually. It's if you've ever walked in a fog or driven a boat in a fog, which I have.
Oh man, it's the worst.
Even on the little lake where I grew up, driving a boat in the fog. The lake's only a mile across and 2 miles long. I got totally lost on this little lake in the fog. I know every house, every inch of it. But if you don't have that orientation, as you say, when you go through a break in the canopy, when you can see the sky, when you can get a sense of where the sun or the stars are, sometimes these are not new tricks; these are ancient tricks. But even the direction of the wind, if there's a steady wind, and you know the direction of the wind, that's really helpful. Amy and I spent a summer in the far North Arctic with, the Inuit who on dog sleds with these hunters. And one way they track where they are is they look at the snowdrifts, and the snowdrifts tend to run in parallel lines like sand ripples, and so they can track themselves by using those as orientation.
Peter,
that's pretty cool. Yeah, when you turn around and look at your back trail, a lot of times the rock croppings and things look different from a different angle, and it's nice to be able to do that. The one place that I really got thrown off for navigation was when I was on ship. I was on the USS Tuscaloosa, and we had to stay below deck most of the time because we went through a typhoon. But when we were allowed up on deck during the day, it's like, oh my God, how do you know where you're at? It's a vast of nothing. But at night, I mean, at least you have the stars at night, but during the day, it's like, wow.
You could be anywhere. Well, it's funny. I have that experience quite a lot. Any one of us can have it too. That Amy, who's a modern dancer and lived in New York a lot. So we visit New York, Manhattan fairly often, and using the subway system there. I go down in a subway, down the stairs, and I get on a train, and I'm going uptown or whatever from downtown. We have a little place to stay downtown. We're going uptown, and I get off the train, 10 stops later or 5 stops later, and I surface on the street. And the first thing is like, which way am I pointing? I have no idea. They're just buildings all around me. And I know that city well, and I know that I came from the South, but I can't figure out where I am. And it's just like you're saying, coming up from below decks on the Tuscaloosa, that it's like coming up from below decks, and there's no point of reference unless you actually track your motion. And when you get off the subway car, you're going north, and then you track your motion through the station. You go around this corner and that corner and up the stairs and this elevator or escalator, and keep track of that. So when you finally surface, that you're still, you're heading north or you're heading east or whatever. But I'm convinced it's just one of the deepest human instincts, and it's getting kind of messed up, I think. And I just think it's really important to have it. But go ahead, Cliff.
Actually, we got to say goodbye to everybody, Peter. You maniac! We never have enough time. Look at the clock, dude.
This is a topic we need to revisit with Peter again.
Yeah, I think
for sure.
Okay, we'll go to the
continue
metaphysical aspects of directions.
Yeah. Oh my God! Please, yes.
Clifford, big thank you to you. I've been saying this for a while, Lindsay.
You're right on.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you, Clifford. Lindsay, I've been saying this for a while. You have We Should Write. And by the way, you'd be welcome to drop in on this one anytime. Peter and I should do a podcast on a weekly basis, and anytime you just want to jump in and be a part of that crazy conversation, just got to find the time and the place. These could go on forever. Peter, thank you so much. Go to Peter Starker. Go to.
You can't spell Stark without Star.
Jimmy, don't worry.
I'm usually pretty good about this, Peter. My deepest apologies. PeterStarkAuthor.com and all other places where you can find him on that website. It'll point you the way. By the way, that's really good. The navigational system known as the internet will get you in touch with Peter. Thank you, Peter. We love you, man.
Yeah, we need that, right?
Yeah.
You're the best, Peter. Have the best weekend.
Really fun, Lindsay and Jimmy. Well, we'll continue this conversation. The metaphysical points of the cardinal directions, whatever.
Okay, that's next month. Can that be next month?
That's it. That's it. We got to go on.
We'll put it on the calendar.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Peter Stark is a regular contributor. He is a member of the Road Gang that is Road Gang Radio.